Matt and Lady Farina, they seem to have gotten into a dispute. Please go see for yourself.
Like I said, I've already explained everything.
And yet the problem has not been properly solved. It is not my intention to offend you, but please, tell me where you stand. You are the Hydro Archon Focalorse, are you not? Look at this. This is a list of the victims from the recent Poisson incident.
You mean...
We did not arrive in time to avert this disaster. I will say this once more. You must tell me everything you know. Yesterday, I found 3 stone slates in some ancient ruins near Poisson.
Seriously? You're questioning me like this is a court case now. I don't know anything about that. But you found them in some ancient ruins, you say?
That's correct, which is why I came to ask you some questions. There should have been 4 slates, but one of them was missing. The other 3 feature different images that seem to correlate to the prophecy.
The prophecy?
The second of these slates depicts the previous Hydro Archon Egeria kneeling before a floating island in the sky, as if confessing something.
I don't. I've never seen such slates.
I'll ask you again. Do you really have no information regarding the previous Archon? My deciphering of the slates indicates that the Hydro Archon Egeria once had to confess to, or apologize for, a certain sin. If anyone would know about it, it should be you.
All gods don't have the same secrets, you know. She was herself and I'm me. Is it really so strange that I know nothing? I understand your concerns, but I'm sorry. I just don't have anything to tell you.
Forgive me for saying this now, Lady Farina, but I have long known of your various secret investigations into certain matters. There are several indications that you have been investigating the prophecy on the sly. This is not strange in itself, considering that you are the Hydro Archon. But it is strange that you should also claim to not know any of Egeria's secrets, as well as do nothing following your inquiries. You have never been as superficial as you have presented yourself to be, nor are you a fool. And yet, your behavior is very inconsistent.
So you've been watching me all this time, have you? I didn't think you were that type.
You...
Well, since you know about my secret investigations, then you should know I'm actually working to take care of it. There's no point questioning or suspecting me. You're the Eudix, but you're still my subordinate. You should be following my lead. Just trust in me, you're Archon, and do as I say. Never mind whether you can truly convince yourself to or not. It'll all turn out fine. That's all I have to say. We do not discuss this matter again. Oh, the opera's about to start. Toodles!
Did Farina not notice us standing by the door? Wonder what's up with her. She was smiling.
I assume you've been outside for a while now?
Oh, you noticed.
She was in a great panic, though I cannot discern the reason. Still, I do not understand. Dialogue is the basis for understanding, so why did she keep refusing to engage? Everyone in her inner circle has noticed that she is hiding some secret. We may have to create a situation in which she will have no choice but to speak.
Oh?
Normally, people will only reveal the truth when standing trial. Perhaps we must have the Hydro Archon experience just such a scenario.
But Farina's seen so many trials, and she's really good at dodging questions. How do we make sure that she won't just slip away at the first chance she gets?
We will need to consider this thoroughly, join forces with various parties, and then do what we can. If at all possible, I would prefer to recuse myself from this affair, but we must prevent the prophecy from coming to pass. This may be cruel to her, but all Fontaine is in crisis. The information a god possesses is too precious, and so we must take a chance on this. But who will lend us their aid to do such a thing?
Well, that's everyone, huh? Speaking of which, it was pretty smart of you to think of hiding here.
Poisson was just involved in a disaster, so it's presently devoid of people. That naturally makes it the best choice.
And here you are drinking tea like it's the most natural thing in the world, huh?
That's what family should do.
It's nice to enjoy tea here, you know? Care for a cup?
Lend me your ears, everyone. Or perhaps one of you might like to start us off. How about you, friend?
Me? No, I don't think I can.
Then, how about you, good sir?
I fear that I will cause the mood on this boat to become as somber as it is in court.
Well then, I guess we're lucky we've got a local like me to organize things. Wonderful, the spotlight at last. I guess I'll be facilitating things from here.
That was a little long-winded, don't you think?
Oh, you might be right. Anyway, to cut to the chase, our friend here, the Traveler, has brought us together to discuss something. As for what that is, well, let's start by saying that we'll be pooling our efforts together to create a series of traps.
Oh, how intriguing.
Well, it's just an expression, really. One that I just learned from Chlorand, and used on the spot. So, let's invite her to explain in detail. A round of applause, please.
Huh? Didn't you say that you would be facilitating this?
Oh, come now. Your work doesn't involve much public speaking, right? This is a good chance to practice. You might even pick up some fancy oratory tricks to impress your boss with in the future.
I see. And what does my boss say?
He is glad that you consider him your boss. Do go on.
In that case, do any of you have experience hunting?
Not that I recall.
Fremine and I once used a wooden stick in a basket to catch wild rabbits when we were younger. As for Lynette, oh, right. You were sick that day, weren't you?
I've also gone diving to catch some fish before.
I'm afraid not. You may or may not have heard, but Fontaine once played host to a group known as the Marechaussee Hunters. Though that was their name, they did not hunt animals, but rather various monsters left behind by the ancient dynasty of King Remus. Today, Fontaine's monster population has already thinned greatly, so the hunters have blended back into society. A trap comprises of the following components: bait, a trigger, and a containment device. So, if we were to build a trap together, right now, what would you choose to build it with?
For me, I would prefer something basket-shaped. Pigeons and rabbits will see the bait, and naturally, our line of work requires a deft hand, and we're some of the best in the industry, so you can count on our techniques.
You used some of those techniques while moving the people of Poisson, didn't you? My subordinates mentioned that you even performed some magic for the bawling children.
Yes, and I even managed to gather some intelligence in the meantime.
I'm afraid I can't claim that as my strong suit. I prefer more stable methods.
Calm and steady. Exactly the kind of person who would catch loads of fish.
And I can be their assistant.
With discretion, I'm...
I'd probably use some sort of mechanical animal. Papa once bought me some small clockwork squirrels, mice, and such. When placed in the forest, they can attract others of their kind. I remember that you liked those too, didn't you?
I did. And that would be a good way to go about it. If they're realistic enough. And
What about you, Monsieur Neuvillette?
I fear I do not have any related experience.
that makes sense. You usually solve problems directly. Without, but I do have one more question for you, Monsieur. If we were to create a trap now, how would you design it?
I would like for it to be effective, but bring no harm to the prey. A more gentle trap would be ideal.
Kind, as always. However, our intention doesn't necessarily change the containment device and the type of implement we need. If we wanted to kill the prey in one strike, we would need a powerful implement. However, that also goes for prey that must be captured and safely contained.
Wait, why's that?
Only a hunter who's a true expert at subduing their prey.
So, are we going hunting together?
Huh. We hadn't thought of seeing ourselves as hunters.
If our means of capturing and dealing with our prey is to put them on trial, then the hunting metaphor is actually quite accurate. But we shall require much more courage than any hunter to judge a god, a being whose seat is an exalted throne.
Oh, so that's what's going on.
It's been a tough few days, hasn't it? So much has been happening. Paimon didn't think the meetings would go on for so long, but everyone seemed pretty fired up, huh? Paimon thought they'd be at least a little frightened. Well, Fremine was, now that Paimon thinks about it, but everyone else just looked a little surprised. It's hard to say. Paimon doesn't have any experience with this sort of thing. But after all, you're the most reliable person in the world, aren't you? Did you just pour some tea? Paimon, then what's that? Paimon's never seen that cup before.
Don't be frightened. I'm just joining you two for tea.
Who's that voice?
Aw, have you forgotten me already?
Wait, you are familiar.
The voice from the sky, Huh. You're feeling lost now, just as you were feeling previously. Consider me a passerby, just accepting a commission from my friend's disciple on... The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled.
What? Then is there any way we can stop?
I believe you have witnessed a failed attempt with your own eyes. Can everything in Tevat so easily be changed? So you've caught on. Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods, are the things that you shall see different from the fate that the gods perceive?
What is she talking about?
I believe that you understand, right? Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide,
no matter what will happen in Tevat's future. This was good tea, by the way.
The voice. All right, coming! Hey, it's you who's getting lazy, okay?
Well, I see I've walked in on some lively banter.
Mona!
Fine, just fine. I went to take part in that Steambird panel. Not all Fontainians are pessimistic about this. One journalist mentioned that sitting around and waiting for the end to come would be wrong, and that they should make their own rescue preparations.
Did she have pink hair by any chance?
Why, yes! It was Charlotte. I'm in full support of her view. Prophecies are very important, but...
That's right! Paimon's glad to hear something sensible for once.
Yes. About what we had discussed before. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't reach the old hag. I'll try again tonight, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. Huh? Goodness gracious. Are you serious?
She said that even the god's gaze has blind spots. Pretty bold if you ask Paimon. Most people would believe the gods to be all-knowing, right?
The Hexen Circle members are certainly anything but ordinary. As for the mage named N, but I've never met her, and if she were still alive, she'd be...
Whoa, the Hexen Circle sounds like a scary group.
But their abilities alone are pretty terrifying. If she came to see you personally, then the problem you're facing must truly be of great importance.
Well, it's not like Paimon could understand anything she said.
Yes, she was quite cryptic, but I suspect she means that there is still a way to turn things around. Perhaps it is something that you cannot know right now. Traveler, Paimon, are you two all right?
Oh, we're fine. We're just a little down right now.
I see. I guess you could consider me someone who has often witnessed fate. But even so, I still hope for and believe in. Perhaps that's what N was trying to tell you. Not to lose heart. And I did originally think of steering clear of all this, but I couldn't. Even if this is all futile, I still wish to...
Huh. You do have a point.
There I go, talking about astrological principles again. Sorry about that. The moment I start talking about work-related stuff... I need to get going. It was worth trying to comfort you, even if only a little. I believe that you'll help those who are struggling in the same... I suppose that might be why we always seem to meet by coincidence.
Paimon feels kind of moved by what Mona said. Hey, Traveler. Paimon suddenly feels like going outside for a walk.
Hip. Hup.
Huh? Let Paimon see! The underwater stronghold, the Fortress of Meripede, has continued in its noble autonomy. My recent attempts to enter the fortress bore little fruit. Thus, did an Outlander friend become the focus of this report. A blonde adventurer with their white fairy, legends trailing in their wake. It is said that this mysterious traveler once visited the underwater fortress. So while the fortress's interior remains a mystery behind closed doors, do not fear, for the tales of the traveler contain surprises in spades. Journalist Charlotte's biggest scoop yet, the Traveler's Trail, World Walker. Huh. Charlotte took so many awesome photos of us and we never even noticed her. She hasn't been able to get a hold of anything at the fortress, so since we're easier to find, she's using us as the subject matter instead? Ugh, seriously? Well... edition, only 16 slices a day cake! It was so delicious the last time we tried it. Despite the tense situation we were in, let's give it another go. I'm sure it'll be great.
1 slice of cake, please.
Someone showed up after all. Oh, wait, you're the one from the Palais Mermonia.
Oh, are you here to buy cake too? It seems.
Wait, did he really?
That's right. Even he has his own preferences when it comes to food. As for me, I love the cake and coffee here.
Do you come here often?
Usually every day.
Every day?
It's part of my daily schedule, apart from work.
Then what if someone told you one day that this place would be closing soon, and you wouldn't get to eat cake here anymore?
But why would it close?
Well, Paimon doesn't know either, but maybe the waters will rise tomorrow. You know, like in the prophecy.
Oh, the prophecy. To be honest, I haven't paid much attention to that. No, still, even if there'd be no more cake tomorrow, that wouldn't keep me from having some today. No, it's the same for eating in general. You might not be able to eat tomorrow, but if you can do so today, then you should carry on. That's what people call living, you know.
Huh.
Don't be sad. Excuse me, could I have 2 more slices of cake? These 2 slices are for you. Sijuin said that this kind of expression you're making is what humans call being sad.
Oh, you know Sijuin?
I sure do. She was born before me, and she sometimes comes to the surface to teach us things about humans. She said that humans are creatures that are saddened easily. Yes, I've got something else to do, so I'll be going now. You two try to stay in a good mood after eating, all right? Bye.
And there she goes. All right, let's dig in. I'm sure this cake will be delicious. It's more delicious than last time! And the flavor gets even better with a sip of tea. Sure would be nice if we could always eat delicious food. Oh, we're near the Steambird office. Let's go look for Charlotte and have a chat.
Hip.
Should be fine.
Wow! If it isn't the Traveler and Paimon!
Ha! You've got some nerve! You just used us to make some quick mora!
Oh, you needn't worry about that. I heard that you were in Poisson sometime. It's all right, though. I've set aside the amount intended for you.
Really?
You're almost a little too easy to win over, Paimon. If I were a journalist with ulterior motives, you'd be in trouble now, you know.
Oh, Paimon knows you're not like that.
Still, what brings you here all of a sudden?
When Mona mentioned you, we thought of coming to see you at work.
I see. It seems... So she mentioned me? What did she say?
She said that you're a real daredevil of a journalist.
Nice. In which case, can this daredevil journalist dare to request an exclusive interview with the legendary Traveler?
Huh? So your article in the paper today doesn't...
Oh, of course it doesn't. That was more like live photography. What I'd like to do is dive deeper and ask you to...
Yeah, are we even...
Why not? If I say you're worth an interview, then you're worth it. But not...
Oh, in that case, we'll just...
Oh, so that's a yes? Ooh, splendid! I'll tell the editor-in-chief immediately. I'll have to apply for lighting, a venue, some props, and... Whew, so much to get done now. Talk to you later.
Wait, Charlotte, Paimon's still got a question for you.
And what's that?
If, just for example, Fontaine were to be flooded tomorrow, what would you do today?
Huh. That's the prophecy you're talking about, isn't it? I mean, if you're seriously asking, then I might try and think of a way to leave Fontaine. Oh, but I'm still a journalist first and foremost. From what I've seen, most people don't know what they'd do should the worst come to pass. So in all likelihood, I'd probably still be prepping at the office for that interview of ours. Just think about it. If this nation really were to be suddenly destroyed tomorrow, And then do you know what I'd do? Well, I'd write that story, send it for printing, and use messenger pigeons to get copies out to the various nations as soon as possible. I'm not a dreamer, nor am I a workaholic, but I do love my job. But anyway, that's my answer. And on that note, I'll get back to my preparations.
That's so nice. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the sea, shall we? The sea breeze and scenery can be a pretty soothing combo. Paimon's been thinking, if it wasn't Fontaine, but all of Teyvat that would be destroyed tomorrow. No, Paimon should ask if you could choose. We've always been moving to the next destination, so we haven't spent much time thinking about these kinds of things. You mean, still traveling? Huh. Wait, isn't that what we've always been doing? Feels like you'll grow mold if you stay here long enough. But it's still better than the Fortress of Meropide, that's for sure. It's not only damp there, but salty too.
Ah, so the two of you are still here. Wonderful.
Oh, you're from the Palais Mermonia, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Isadora. Monsieur Nervillat sent me to look for you two before. I heard that afterward you went to the Fortress of Meropide. Not at all. I'm well aware that you're friends of his. Yes, inside the Opera House. The Maréchaussée Phantom has declared the incident a small-scale riot.
A riot?
Well, that said, Lady Farina was watching a performance at the Opera House, and loudly accusing her of doing nothing about the prophecy. And before she could respond, others started to join in. The crowd continued to grow, and protests against the Hydro Archon started to break out.
So people have started to put the blame on Farina. Guess they finally found an outlet for the...
I agree. People will naturally rely on gods, as is customary.
So what happened after that?
Seeing that the situation was spiraling out of control and that further argument was pointless, the Maréchaussée Phantom had their hands full maintaining order and did not catch Lady
So, you mean she's...
That's right. The Maréchaussée has dispatched... That said, I don't think there's much to worry about. She is a god, after all. Good. Monsieur Nervillat sent me to tell you about the...
Don't worry. This is more than an...
Is that so?
Well, sounds like we should hurry over to Poisson then. If we know Farina, she won't try to fix things in this situation. And, as we also know, she may be loud and dramatic, but she doesn't have a heart of stone. When Nervillet was talking to her in the Palais Mermonia, and she heard about Poisson, she couldn't hide her sadness and remorse. It would be hard for her to ignore being accused by the public today. Paimon thinks Farina's probably taken the opportunity to slip away to Poisson and... Well, what do you think? Paimon knows the answer, of course, but Paimon can do the analysis to back it up, too. Cool, huh? In that case, there's not a moment to lose. Poisson, here we come! This place looks deserted. Guess all the survivors must have evacuated already. All that's left here are signs of devastation. Could Farina really be here? Let's try to find her as soon as possible. That's Farina, right over there.
Should I just give up? What was meant to happen did happen after all. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Give up, Farina. There's no point in holding out. I'm sorry, but what can I even do other than to repeat meaningless apologies over and over? Who's that?
Don't worry, Farina, it's just us.
So it is you, blonde traveler from another land.
Farina, you were crying just now, weren't you?
What do you mean, tear stains? Oh, I remember. The show at the Opera House earlier this morning was so moving. Who did that uncivilized rabble think they were? Does they even dare to tout their archon? I must teach them a lesson. Oh, and I'm sure Nouvellette and those people from the Marche Chaussee Phantom are freaking out right next to them, too. Of course not.
Hey, there she is! The Hydro Archon's over there! Quick, after her!
Farina, those people seem to be after you.
They are? They're just some rabid fans who want to cut the line. That's against the rules. I can't let them get their way.
Farina just ran off! Quick, we have to catch up! This should be the place, right? Hey, Farina! There's a good hiding spot over here! Quick, come to...
What? What is...
Hurry, they're almost...
Fine. I suppose haste is warranted. Lead the way.
Paimon's exhausted.
I'm so tired. I totally thought they had caught me. No, I mean, I merely gave in to the sheer enthusiasm they displayed. You were right.
Yep, that's a good girl.
What's happening?
Yeah, a quake of this kind preceded the flooding in
It can't be. It's happening again?
Well, there's no need to worry too much about that. Nouvellette's made some
Yeah, but the people of Poisson, they've already... It's true. I've been investigating the prophecy for hundreds of years. I once had informants all over Teyvat, searching for clues and feeding information back to me. I've tried all kinds of ways, too, to hold back the sea. Anything to keep the coastline from advancing. But all my efforts proved to be futile in the end. Really, the truth has been clear to me for a very long time. We cannot make an enemy of the divine. No matter what we do, the will of the heavenly principles will have its way, and the prophecy shall be fulfilled. Give up. I do love the sound of that phrase. It would mean finally coming to terms with fate, but also for me to finally be free. Indeed, I've thought about giving up so many times. Fate is really unreasonable, isn't it? But just now, it all became clear to me. I still don't have the right to come to terms with fate on behalf of everyone else. As long as the final moment hasn't... Don't worry. I will keep hope alive for everyone until the very end. Well, that's enough for now. I got the impulse to play the stricken maiden, but honestly, considering my rank and station, that wasn't a good fit at all. Don't take any of what I just said seriously. How could I possibly let Fontaine fall to the whims of trivial prophecy?
Come on! Paimon could have sworn you were actually being honest just now.
That's impossible. It was fated right from the start that this would be my duty alone. A witness. Yes, I've heard that you came to Tevat from beyond the stars, yes. In other words, you never belonged here. And if Tevat is, in its entirety, a show on a stage, then you're just a spectator, aren't you? If that's the case...
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my opening performance. Now, without further ado, we may proceed to the trial of our god.
So this is what it is. Yes, you deserve praise for the effort you took to raise the dramatic stakes. Do not forget, however, that I am Focalorс, the god of justice, the embodiment of justice itself. Does it not strike you as even the least bit absurd to bring the...
May I interpret these words as your refusal to stand trial? In that case, you will have the opportunity to defend your honor through a duel.
You would draw your blade against a god? I see. It seems like you have made up your mind.
Paimon can't believe it.
What the heck is going on?
Wow. How...
Lady Farina, what is the meaning of this?
Shh! It would seem that there has been a misunderstanding.
Looking for excuses again, huh?
I raised my hands just now to indicate my acceptance of the trial. I will admit that I've been running away for... I'm sorry, everyone. I was unable to protect the people of Poisson. You are not the only ones to be disappointed in me. But now, it is time for the Hydro Archon to show you her courage and resolve. I, Farina, will use this trial to show the world the true meaning of justice! This time, I will protect you. Applaud and rejoice! One of the most outrageous and fantastical arcs known to the opera epiclese is now unfolding before your eyes. Mark my words, This shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of Fontaine! The trial of the Hydro Archon, Focalorс, will now begin!
Woohoo! Oh, now we're making history!
Why does it feel like Farina just took over the whole thing? Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic,
All right, then. Who will be my opponent in this trial?
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Very well. Then please speak, witness of Tivat, my accuser and fated opponent. Also, please allow me to ask, as a final question before the trial begins, just how much work did you do to force me onto this stage?
well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward and easy.
Navia, the president of the Spina di Rosula.
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the perfect opportunity to incite insurrection against you. The people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the prophecy is fulfilled. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely flee the scene and head to Poisson by your... So, we arranged for a second group.
So, you mean... the one...
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest magic performance in all of Fontainian history.
That's right. That house was a magic box.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the Opera Epiclese, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Araneas, was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Farina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off such an extraordinary performance.
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the water.
So, in other words, the earthquake that we felt within...
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran's parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion duelist would be immediately ready for a fight. Also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may commence without a hitch. Am I right?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage.
Thank you.
As for you, Traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted with conversation once you'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived onto the stage.
Oh?
Is that so? Then I suppose I must have missed my final chance. It's fine. It matters not. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through to the...
Madam Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the...
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Hey, Charlotte! Oh, let Paimon see. Wait, evidence every time we want to use something from our journey as evidence for an argument. Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, all right?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. That's one for the history books, all right. I didn't think that you'd wind up getting to the bottom of the case I'd been following all this time. I guess you could also see this as a happy coincidence. This is the first time Monsieur Nervillette had a difference of opinion with the Oratrice. Even the Hydro Archon can't figure it out. I didn't think that you'd wind up getting to the bottom of the case I'd been following all this. A Fatui Harbinger. She's an extraordinary person. Her instinct must mean something. The fortress of Meripede was almost destroyed in a single day. That I didn't witness that scene personally will always be a source of professional regret, I think. According to Monsieur Nervillette, both Child and that whale should have been in the primordial sea at that time. I nearly lost my awesome friend Navia. To be honest, that still gives me shivers. The words of someone as extraordinary as a witch can probably only be truly understood when something surreal happens to you.
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, Nervillette. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. As the defendant and the lead actress of this performance, I still haven't even been informed of my supposed guilt in all of this. Of course, it is only natural for humans to struggle to understand the actions of a god. However, you will need more than that to convict me of a crime.
That's true, but my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first place.
Wait, what was that? Lady Farina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking our duty, but...
Charge accepted. Lady Farina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Farina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalorse, otherwise known as Farina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be anything other than your true Archon.
Yeah. Even though Lady Farina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her very identity?
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Farina can be super irresponsible.
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no fooling their memory. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the god of justice that...
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? We have to not only refute Farina's claims, but also overturn the long-held beliefs of the people.
Well, I tried to give you the chance to surrender. And if I was not the Archon, then how did I manage to live for over 500 years?
You may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you to naturally possess an extended lifespan. And second of all,
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to use a harbinger's words against me.
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally resemble a type of curse. But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse after all.
You sensed it too, huh, Nervalet?
Lady Farina is actually a human?
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans and gods apart just by looking at them.
Well, don't start celebrating too early now. Even if I have been carrying a curse like you said. Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of authority. Gods can do what humans cannot. That's why they're worshipped as gods. For centuries, manifestations of my authority have served the nation of Fontaine. One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this very opera house.
You tried to reference the Oratrice. But weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the Oratrice declared Child to be guilty without any proof?
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for humans to come.
Lady Farina, I believe a reminder of your current circumstances is in order. While the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law must... You will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you...
I never thought you'd use that kind of rhetoric against me.
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Farina.
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor did you understand the structure and operations of the Oratrice. Instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of authority you mentioned have been made by the real Hydro Archon, haven't they?
The real Hydro Archon? Well, now you're really losing. It is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict that day, but the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally. And you can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the god behind it must also be no god at all.
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof that she has no power over the Oratrice.
My power as an Archon. There are many ordinary citizens in the audience.
If that poses a concern, I'm prepared to extend my protection to the audience.
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or is it that you can't even wield the power of Hydro, much less the authority of a god?
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their power from the faith of the people, and I've converted the people's faith in justice into Indemnitium! Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy for their daily lives. Have you...
Isn't that...
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power?
It seems like nobody's buying Farina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone. Please don't stare at me. I'm still the same Farina you knew, right? Please? You've got to believe me.
If what the prosecutor said is true, she really has committed a grave offense.
Did she deceive all of us? And all of our parents and grandparents too? And...
Enough! That's enough. Tell me then, if I'm not the real Hydro Archon, then who is? If you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence...
Wow, she came up with yet another argument! doesn't sound right. It has been established that all Fontainians can dissolve in water from the primordial sea.
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right here and now to
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, a massive flood struck, including those of some of my closest. So, Miss Farina, would you dare to touch some of this seawater? If we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching this seawater would have no effect on you. But if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any more people dissolve. I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of admit—
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years.
If Lady Farina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontainian like all the rest of us.
Lady Farina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you possess the right to decline participation.
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a confession.
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word.
What's going on? Is she really planning to—
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Farina.
Hey!
I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! Will you believe me now? I really am your Archon!
Miss Siegewin? If you're present, Miss Siegewin.
Siegewin?
Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds. That should be enough.
Please announce the results of your evaluation.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Farina was displaying symptoms of hyperventilation. She was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as other humans when it—
Thank you, Miss Siegewin. Lady Farina.
Oh, wait. What did she just say? I didn't get dissolved!
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problems, however, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated. We don't want anyone else to lose their life.
Yeah, so out of regard for Farina's life, you secured a low-content— It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used.
I can't believe... Listen to me, everyone. Please don't give me some— Think about it. How can you conclusively prove that an Archon can't? Also, if I was really just a— Please, everyone, anyone, just listen to me. I swear, I really am your Archon.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone.
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for—
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone who's two-stepped against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Farina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Farina is guilty. We shall now turn to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges. According to the judgment of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale, Farina is...
Well, what's wrong? What's the Oratrice's verdict?
No, the Oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: the High to be punished via the death sentence.
The death sentence?
That's actually one of the available sentences?
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court. And it's been given to the very person we've worshipped at...
Farina's been sentenced to death by the Oratrice?
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's... Is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Yeah! Even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the Oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Indeed. Not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, but now, the Oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon.
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! You finally made it. I assume...
Mm-hmm. Any mission for...
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately...
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the... But has the trial already concluded? Then...
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates.
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime.
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, so when you say Hydro Archon...
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point however, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will do her best to help you... The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into humans. Does that mean that Fontainians are transformed Oceanids? The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontainians were branded with their original sin. Does this... The third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea surrounded by many people. That reminds Paimon, didn't we? Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontainians have been talking about. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But...
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women, and the first stone slate tells us that long ago the Hydro... This might be the reason that Fontainians can dissolve. It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing?
That doesn't sound...
Perhaps what is about to take place, the true sin of the Hydro Archon and the original sin cast down on the...
That doesn't sound... That doesn't...
The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontainians to dissolve. If we hadn't dealt with it in time,
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea, but won't cease to exist. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The prophecy's contents can all be verified by recent events. Huh? Oh, Paimon gets it now! So that's how you can make sense of it. But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelations.
Let's hear them.
Incredible. Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
All Fontainians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontainians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's
the Hydro Archon's true sin.
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese.
Yeah! Isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate? In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Oh, did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, when we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded. Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher.
Well...
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the seven, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanid's blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into...
So we were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular...
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct. A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others, who therefore, that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon. Yes.
I think I'm following now. So, in truth, everything we've done has...
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also...
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy about the fourth slate. You probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about. However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, as for the root cause of the catastrophe, This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster.
It was both dream and reality.
If we're talking about a true culprit, that could only be that thing inside the primordial sea, right?
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it has chosen to make an appearance here. That whale does not belong to Teyvat. It is a monster that has traversed the stars. It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, and once it has finished consuming all—
You said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontainians out of—
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of— Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food.
We just barely managed to push it back, right?
That is correct. Indeed, it is more accurate to say that we should thank that harbinger for buying us some time. Without him, the whale would have likely come onto land far sooner. From the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite a long time.
That battle maniac. We've always known that he had a special connection with that whale, but we definitely didn't expect it to help us out like this. Anyway, now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the disaster recorded in the prophecy, all we need to do to stop the prophecy would be to find a way to beat it up, right?
It is too late. It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could notice it. At this point, it has become practically integrated with the sea itself. Even if the entirety of Teyvat were to be destroyed,
We've already done everything we can, and we even found the true culprit. We've come so far. You can't just tell me that the last hurdle is some impossible foe. That's just not fair.
Indeed, that's not how a grand performance should end.
I'll fight it to the end, no matter what.
So the prophecy will be fulfilled no matter what, huh?
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future. Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods, could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods— Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Teyvat's future.
What's happening with the oratories?
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Marina!
No, I still need answers.
You...
Sorry. That shocked expression on your face is just too amusing.
You are not Farina. Who are you?
Ah, the sweet sound of bewilderment. Marvelous. A sure sign that my attempt to deceive everyone was a resounding success.
Focalorс. Why did you deceive us?
Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. but the heavenly principles.
Deceiving the heavenly principles.
It's all because of that pernicious prophecy. Dreadful, wasn't it? Everyone doomed to dissolve. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my dearest predecessor. That's the former Hydro Archon Egeria, for the uninitiated. It hardly gets more disastrous than a preordained national catastrophe. She knew full well that the prophecy would surely come to pass. And as one of the seven, she also knew full well that one defies the heavenly principles at one's peril. So yes, as you have no doubt surmised, it was a rather impossible situation that I found myself in. I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. And I was almost growing barnacles by the time I finally realized I had to outwit the heavenly principles. I'm a genius, I know. I can only assume that's why Egeria chose me as her successor. Although, looking back now, it was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the nation, the quotidian duties of the Hydro Archon. But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to be one of her Oceanid familiars.
So you were also once one of the Oceanids, transformed into a human by Egeria's hand.
Yes, I was. I always dreamed of becoming human. And I still do, even now. In my eyes, to be human is to be part of the greatest opera ever known. After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past self on her first day as a human being. The me you see before you now is that divinity. And the human counterpart I left behind, I named Farina. She could feel joy, sorrow, and everything in between. She could be as vain and conceited, or as meek and vulnerable. Her strengths were of a kind only a human could possess. But in my eyes, Farina's humanity was what made her perfect. She was perfectly human in every way. Anyway, so then I cursed her. All part of the plan, of course. The plan to deceive the heavenly principles. Do you still remember the final scene of the prophecy? In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, I invited Farina to be an actress under the curse I placed on her. So long as I, Focalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she free to live her life in the pursuit of happiness. Instead, she was forced to take the stage in the opera house. I suppose now you probably understand why your court is called the Opera Epiclese.
But Farina is only human, isn't she? Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being. I cannot begin to fathom what she has had to endure.
It has indeed. And although she is, in a sense, it's been 500 years, and all along, she's been playing her part in the most unimaginably long, unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful opera of all time.
invited you to come onto this stage. Now, I understand your admiration for my august self, but I must ask you to keep to the rules. All right. It is not my intent to reprimand you. There is no need to state your name. Just be off with you. Do not distract me from my performance. Oh, do not jest. Can you not feel it? I am Focalorс. The eyes of countless Fontainians are upon me. I must, at all times, display the utmost elegance and nobility. Dear audience, the performance is experiencing a technical difficulty, but worry not. The guards shall resolve it soon.
I'm going in! Let's light it! Here comes the finale.
Hey, what gives? The audience is still watching me, you know. Guards? Wait, where are the guards? Guards!
And voila! Huh? Huh.
Farina.
Huh? Who's that? Who's calling me? Where are you?
Be not nervous. Be not afraid.
Wait a moment. You're mirror me? How can this be?
Mirror you, huh?
Mirror me.
The prophecy.
What prophecy? Wait. I know. I think. I don't know why, but it's in the people will all be dissolved into the waters.
Oh.
What's going on? I can't seem to remember.
Yes, it will. And that is why I've come to you.
But doesn't that mean everyone will die?
Oh, don't worry. Matt, I will tell you how to save everyone, but...
Oh, so there's still hope after all. As for the suffering, well, I will admit that the first thing that came to mind was, but if the prophecy will come true, I'll also die anyway, right? So if I've already met you as if there were scales, with all the people of Fontaine on one side, and my pain on the other.
You truly are the perfect human. My ideal. I suppose this would also be the justice that belongs to you.
Huh?
Don't worry, it's nothing. Listen well. Fontaine has just lost its Hydro Archon. I need you to play a role.
Play as a god?
That's right. You must begin a never-ending masquerade. You must never let anyone suspect your identity. If you can keep it up, then I shall have my way of defying this prophecy.
But how will I do this? A human assuming the role of a god without...
Don't worry. What you must do is not to turn yourself into being a human yourself. I'm sure you already know what. Remember, your true challenge will not be pursuing divinity.
I'm still not sure I understand, but... So, how long am I going to have to play?
To accomplish this mission, you will have to stay on the stage for many, many years. But I promise you...
A trial, huh? The Maison Cardinalise has announced my accession, but this is my first time. What should I say to most appear like a god? To be honest, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to the Opera Epiclese. I'm sure you've all heard about how I have taken on the role of Hydro Archon. Indeed, I am Verena de Fontaine, your new Archon. In truth, I know little about becoming a nation's new god, but it will be my honor to guide you all. As the god Focalor's, the god of justice, I shall do all within my power to lead you into an age of fairness and justice. Once again, thank you all for coming. If you should have any questions or suggestions, please send them to the Maison Cardinalise. This should do it. I thought I might stammer, but thankfully, I was.
That's the new Hydro Archon. Is this some kind of joke by the Maison? I would have thought that a being that surpasses humanity would be a bit more...
Hey, did you hear that? She even told us to send her suggestions there at the end.
Shouldn't gods be all-powerful? She's being so modest. What's...
If you ask me, perhaps the succession didn't actually happen. She might just be a Maison-backed puppet.
Wait, what's going on? Why is everyone suspecting me of being right? Mirmi said that I just need to calm down, Verena. Think. Assertive, with a strong sense of presence. Oh, very good, my people. Only ones such as you are deserving of my rule. Now, I was wondering if some weak puppet were to one day come onto the stage and claim ownership of this opera house. Well, it seems that you would all see right through them. Having passed my test, you are qualified to witness wondrous trials alongside my august self. You may consider my previous act a door gift of sorts. I thought it was a debut that suited the atmosphere. Now then...
Ah, so that was just a performance. How could I have forgotten that we were inside an opera house?
Her personality. It's quite shocking, to be honest, but I suppose it's a better look than before.
Such a fascinating and bold deity. How wonderful! Our future may yet be bright after all.
It seems I've turned them around. Best follow this flow and restart my accession speech. My dear people, whether you acknowledge me or not, whether you trust me or nay, I say to you, keep faith in your ardor for justice. We have heard it said that this nation's sins can no longer be washed away. Well, I say that justice is most fragrant when it blooms amid sin. No, this won't work. They'll suspect me again. I must play the role that they want me to play. No, this won't work. They'll suspect me again. I must play the role that they want me to play. The scales of justice should not weigh heavy in the hands of its God. On one side, it must carry fairness and justice. May law be the prayer on our lips. May judgment be our worship. Let us light the fires and drink to the future of Fontaine! There is no trouble in this world that justice cannot solve. So long as I, the Archon Focalor, stand within the Opera Epiclese, so long as I stand before the Oratrice, I shall even judge the gods of this world!
Lady Farina, here are today's case reports, as well as a summary of the follow-up for your perusal.
Come now, was I not just at the Opera House in person? Leave these kinds of things to Neuvillette. Besides, none of these trials were the one that I'm looking forward to the most.
If I may be so impertinent, what kind of trial are you truly looking forward to?
A magnificent, dramatic, and wondrous trial. A trial to end all things. How could you hope to understand?
That's true, I fear I lack the ability to grasp your divine—
No need for fright, and do not take what I said before too seriously. Go now to...
Lady Farina, I don't know what to say. Thank you for agreeing to see me.
No need to thank me. Or rather, thank your own sense of perseverance instead. Long have you stood in line to meet me, have you? Oh, I'm afraid that's just an inevitable consequence of my divine charm. All right. Deoteria, is it?
You remembered me, and you knew of my family, too. He is doing much better now. In fact, he is far more of an ardent believer than I. He was the one who forced me to seek an audience with you. And
Oh, good. Very good. If this should happen again in the future, please do not hesitate to come.
You're such a gentle and wise god.
Lady Farina, here are the latest hydrological reports. As for the specific parameters you asked to take note of, I'm afraid things still don't look good.
I see. It's as I thought, then. As your god, I did already expect this, but I wanted to see how far your human wisdom would allow you. All manner of signs indicate that the prophecy will still come to pass. Forget it. That's not something you need to worry about right now.
Well, as I understand it, the Fontaine research—
Really? Have they found anything?
I'm afraid that they haven't found any effective solution thus far.
Oh, is that so? Well, no wonder. This issue has reached the realm of the gods, after all. Still, their spirit is praiseworthy. naivete is finally over. But it's good to see that everything's getting on track. Maybe this is fine. I just need to keep going. Alright, Farina, don't think too hard.
Lady Farina, here are the new trial reports for the latest cases, as well as a summary of the follow-up.
There'll be no need for that. I've seen them already. There's no need to go back over scenes I've witnessed in person before.
Lady Farina, I've waited.
Indeed, my dear loyal citizen. This...
Lady Farina, we're detecting significant hydrological anomalies near Poisson.
Understood. Keep monitoring. I don't think I feel utterly exhausted. Best to rest early.
Lady Farina, it's like a dream being able to speak with you up close. I've heard that the first member of our family who was honored to receive an audience with you.
And what a fine family yours is indeed. It brings...
Surely you exaggerate, Lady Farina. My lady?
What is it, good citizen?
Oh, are you crying?
Oh, really now? I didn't even notice. This must be the overflow of hydro from my person. Well, can't quite help being the god whose dominion is the waters, can I?
No wonder. No wonder. A manifestation of your power, then. Oh.
So interminable. Hundreds of years must have passed by now. I never imagined that it would hurt so much. Have I reached my limit? I want to tell someone. I've conducted so many investigations across the centuries. All I can do is keep heart. I must maintain the